Muhammad Yunus was born in 1940 in the village of Batua in Hathazari, Chittagong, Bangladesh. His father was a successful goldsmith who always encouraged his sons to seek higher education. But his biggest influence was his mother, who always helped any poor that knocked on their door. This inspired Yunus to commit himself to the eradication of poverty. Educated in economics in the US, Professor Yunus returned to his country in 1972 and joined the economics department of the University of Chittagong as head of economics department. It was during his visits to the poorest households in the village of Jobra that he discovered that a small loan like $27 could make such a huge difference to a poor person, not only to help them survive, but also to create the spark of personal initiative and enterprise necessary to pull themselves out of poverty. Against the advice of banks and government, Yunus carried on giving up microloans and in 1983 formed the Grameen Bank, meaning village bank, founded on the principles of trust and solidarity. In Bangladesh today, Grameen has over 2,500 branches with almost 20,000 staff, serving 8.29 million borrowers in over 81,000 villages. Grameen methods are applied in projects in 58 countries, including the US, Canada, France, the Netherlands and Norway. Many consider Grameen Bank as the origin of modern microcredit of the world. In October 2006, Muhammad Yunus was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, along with Grameen Bank, for their efforts to create economic and social development. Now let's talk about you, Professor Yunus, what you stand for. You're a Nobel Prize winner and the initiator of microfinancing, particularly for women, and you have your dream to make poverty history. And since you've had this dream until now, are we seeing that in the works? I mean, are we beginning to make poverty history, or actually are we creating more poverty in the world?
I would say poverty is decreasing. We are not going into increasing poverty. While the poor are improving their income, the rich, their income is moving much faster. So the gap between the two is widening, that's true. But it's fact that the poor people are getting out of poverty. Millions of people got out of poverty in China, in India, in Bangladesh, in Indonesia, in all places. So that's in the direction. And also you see Millennium Development Goals. Number one goal is to reduce poverty by half by 2015. So it's already shown that poverty is reducing and reducing at a faster and faster rate. And my point is, if we are achieving that half the poverty is gone by 2015, then what will be the goal next? And my suggestion is to put poverty, bring poverty to zero by say 2030, so that after 2030 there will be no poor person, and it's possible. So all we have to do is to focus our attention and make sure everything that we have done right during this period are more strengthened, and make sure the remaining poor people also move out of poverty.
When we talk about poverty, let's focus on the definition of poverty. I mean, although, like you said, the number of poor people are decreasing, but yet at the same time, the gap between the poor and the rich is widening. I mean, you have multi-billionaires in one part of the world, and then you have people living on less than $2 a day. I mean, when we talk about poverty, what kind of living standards are we talking about? And how is it that we get into this situation where the system or the institutions allow the creation of such a widening gap between the very poor and the very, very rich?
Sure. No matter which yardstick we use to measure poverty, they will not be satisfactory, because poverty is a multidimensional thing. You cannot express it one measure or the other measure. But you still need something to see what is happening. So remembering that this is an inadequate measure, but still you use it as a reference point. You have to have some measure to see that. The most popular one used globally is the $1.25. If the daily income is $1.25 every day, then you are above poverty if you do that. If you are below $1.25, then you are in poverty. So that's the kind of cutoff point. But then you can elaborate after that, after you've seen whether you are improving in that. Many people coming out of the below $1.25 and coming above to $1.25, then you're moving positively. Or it's happening the reverse. Luckily, it's happening in a positive way. People are coming out of the $1.25 and crossing that line. Good. But there are other things that you have to see. Other things in Grameen Bank, for example, we use 10 indicators. We look at it 10 different things. For example, we look at the roof of your house. If it is a leaky roof, because it's a monsoon country, heavy rain, inside the house, lots of rainwater will go on. If it is a solid roof, then you have fulfilled one condition, that you can afford to have a house with a solid roof. Then we say, do you have furniture? Do you have beds to sleep, or you still sleep on the floor? If you sleep on the floor, still something has to be improved in your life. So if you start sleeping on the bed, then you have covered that point also. Do you have access to drinking water, safe drinking water? Because drinking water is a big shortage, either polluted water or arsenic contaminated water in Bangladesh. If you have access to safe drinking water, then you have fulfilled another condition. And do your children go to school? If all your children in the school, they're going to school, then you fulfilled another condition. Do you have 5,000 taka or more in your savings account? So that's an indication that you have enough money. For example, it will be about $65 in your savings account, which may be twice as much as your loan amount. So you have some money for emergencies. You don't have to rush to somebody else to do that. So there are 10 such conditions. You fulfill. If everything is yes, you have done that, then you said definitely you have moved out of poverty. So this is a very elaborate way to do that. Simple way and elaborate way. Okay. You can do that.
But when we talk about causes of poverty and when we talk about systems that put people in this situation, what would you say would be the overriding cause that creates poverty? And obviously no one wants to be poor and nobody wants to be born poor.
The way I have been explaining that poverty is not caused by poor people. They are not the creator of poverty. It's not something lacking in them which makes them poor. Poverty is created from outside. It's imposed on the people to create poverty. So it's an externally imposed phenomenon, not internally generated phenomenon. And the system, as you said, is not by design they created this to make poor people. But this was designed in a way, you did it in a callous way. You didn't care for people. You are not designing to make it poor, but you design in a way left a lot of opportunities for people to remain, get poor, because you did not provide the service to them like you do to the other people. For example, institutions are designed badly, like banking system. Banking system doesn't include the poor people. There's no reason why they should not be included, because it's a good way to do banking with the poor people. We have demonstrated it years and years. It's done globally, and nobody can say, no, it cannot be done anymore. So why don't you do it? They say, well, we cannot make money. How come loan sharks make a lot of money? They are thriving, but how come you can't do the same thing? They say, well, loan sharks can do things we can't do. Then why don't you find out what the Grameen Bank does? They cover the cost, they make money, and people, the owners of the Grameen Bank, they get dividend. They get dividend on an average of 20% per year. So they run the bank and see no problem. So you can go on explaining why they don't do this, why it can be done. But still, microcredit has remained a sort of a footnote in the banking chapter. It's not a main chapter. It's not the part of the mainstream banking. And why shouldn't we be mainstream banking? So we have to redesign the whole banking system so that it becomes an inclusive banking system. We lend money to beggars. We have no problem lending money to beggars. And we have done it again and again. A large number of beggars take loans from us. More than 100,000 beggars take loan from us. We never feel threatened or feel uncomfortable with it. We feel very comfortable with it.
Indonesia, with a long history of microcredits, has done much to reduce poverty through a nationwide scheme of microfinancing. I talked to Minister Sharif Hassan, in charge of cooperative and small and medium enterprises, on the role of micro-businesses in the country's economy. So what is the role of microfinance in reducing poverty in Indonesia?
We have been achieved to deliver the credit of credit usaha rakyat to the micro sectors. Almost went to around 3,000 million US dollar. You know, so it's over target. So the total accumulate from 2007 is almost 10,000 million US dollar has been delivered to the micro sector. So according to the statistic, micro sectors can contribute to the unemployment about 97% of the demand of the labor force in Indonesia. So once the unemployment can reduce, it means the poverty could be reduced too. Their contribution to the GDP of Indonesia is quite a lot.
And is it increasing?
Yes.
Or?
No, the numbers goes to 57% contributed to the national GDP of Indonesia.